the grueling Lesotho Sun Roof of Africa Rally, Toyota, Sani Industries, SVM, V Motors, Rapsa, Protea Playing Card, AGA Panasonic and Johannesburg Yamaha. The Lesotho Sun Roof of Africa Rally is the toughest event of its kind in the world and always provides a fitting finale to the South African Off-Road Championship. With a number of titles still up for grabs after a long and hard season, this year's three-day fight against Lesotho's tough mountain terrain took on added significance for a number of competitors. On the motorcycle front, consistent performances throughout the season took Riaan van Niekerk into the final race of the season with a 20-point lead over Kevin Fisher in the 500 class. With multiple champion Alfie Cox campaigning overseas this season, Bloemfontein-based Graham McLaughlin had a comfortable lead over Daryl Curtis in the 250 category. The big battle was in the 200 class, where only 3 points separated championship leader Alex Vowles and Henny Human.
I've been away for 8.5 months, and everybody says that when I get back, there's so many guys going fast. But now I've been in Europe and I've gained so much experience there, and I'm hoping it's going to help me a little bit more here when I come back. And I like the roof, and I've always done well here, and that's why I've come home for the Roof of Africa.
On four wheels, the special vehicle class was going all the way to the wire with just 7 points separating the Chepek father and son combination and the Eastern Cape crew of Greg Harvey and Lionel Acton.
It's going to be a lot of pressure on this particular race. It's the end of the season, it's the last race. It's for double points. We've got a 7-point lead at the moment, but on double points it doesn't mean much. Double points is 90 points. So we've got to decide what to do, whether to go for a win, which would be very nice. Very competitive, a lot of good cars here, or otherwise just finish and try and win the championship, which was the other alternative.
Wikus van Deventer has dominated the quad racer category throughout the season. The little man from the Northwest Province has proved to be in a class of his own this year. In the production vehicle category, Ralph and Ray Henderson had an outside chance of slipping through the back door to catch R.P. Reiniger and navigator Robin Houghton. Out of the championship race, last year's winners Cliff Barker and Mike Redden were looking at making it a double.
Well, I think first of all, your car's got to be good, and then secondly, you've got to have some kind of race plan. Your plan must be obviously to last the 3 days. Last year we kept a slow pace for the first day, speeded up a bit more, and then the last day we raced. I think that seems to be the way to go.
The traditional Alliance Round the Houses race always gets the Roof of Africa off to a cracking start. For many Maseru residents, the Round the Houses events provide for the outing of the year, and for the competitors there's an early adrenaline rush. Of course, where some crews are concerned, they still have to get rid of a few cobwebs, and some run into early problems with the route schedule. The course for the Alliance Round the Houses combines tar sections through Maseru with the sort of conditions more readily associated with off-road racing. Robbie Walk and Greg Wiebel in the Superpave Raceco jumped into the early lead, with Harry Roscoe in the Protea Playing Card single-seater right behind the pair. The impressive Motortech Raceco former roof winners Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne was next up, with the front runners setting a terrific pace. Lars Buerta always said the Rugby Currie Cup was never won in May, and the roof is never won on the first day. With 3 tough days ahead, a number of crews were content to tackle the Round the Houses section at a far more sedate pace. Where others are concerned, the racing instinct bubbles to the surface, and it's time to have a little early fun. Harry Roscoe has won more Round the Houses trophies than any other driver and was enjoying himself hugely. The Motortech Raceco was surprisingly nimble on the tight tar sections, with Nardis Alberts and Peter Mattia also going well. Linton Draper is always spectacular in the big Raceco Chevy, and the crowds that throng the Maseru city centre love every moment of it. At the front of the field, Robbie Walk and Greg Wiebel were gradually being caught by Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne in the awesome Motortech Raceco. Raceco resembling a moon buggy brushing aside obstacles, the pair had moved ahead of Harry Roscoe in the single-seater car. Schilling and Thorne, the only Lesotho resident ever to have won the car section of the roof, were on a charge with the locals cheering on their favourites. The Round the Houses pipe opener is combined on the opening day of the roof with a time trial that takes competitors out of Maseru for a short preview of what is to come over the next 2 days. Accumulated times for the Round the Houses section and the time trial are used to determine start positions for the second day of racing. Once out of the confines of Maseru, the Schilling-Thorn combination let the Motortech race go off the leash and set off in hot pursuit of the Super Pave car in the hands of Robbie Walk and Greg Wiebel. On fast and open sections like this, with the specially designed suspension making light work of the road surface, the twin and single-seater raceco's hit speeds in excess of 200 kilometers an hour. Behind the Motortech and Super Pave cars, Harry Roscoe was going well in the first of the single-seaters. Both Walk and Roscoe had huge accidents on the roof a couple of seasons ago, but have lost none of their zest for racing. Still without a win this season were 1994 Special Vehicle champions Herman and Karl-Heinz Sulwald in another raceco. Although it hadn't been a happy season for the pair in terms of results, the Sulwalds were hoping to end on a high note. Not far behind the brothers from Secunda, the Shell raceco, driven by Stan Illman and Franz Stangl, was going along steadily. The pair raised a few eyebrows when they arrived at the roof a couple of seasons ago in a Porsche Carrera. They promptly went out and won their class, and earlier this year competed in the London to Mexico rally in the same car. The Roof of Africa each year disrupts for a day or two the tranquility of rural life in Lesotho. There is nothing tranquil in the cockpit of a race car competing on the roof, with the Nissan Sani of Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak setting the pace in the production vehicle category. Woolridge is a former winner of the motorcycle category on the roof and was looking to join Kelly Schorthammer and Malcolm Smith as the only men to have won the roof on both 2 and 4 wheels. Chasing after the Sani were 1993 winners Kasi Kutsia and Richard Leek in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. The Springbok pair went into the roof with a good season behind them. The pair tasted victory in both this year's Off-Road Championship and in the Video Sport Challenge categories on both the Castrol and Toyota International rallies. A terrific rivalry has developed in the production vehicle category this season. Toyota, Nissan and Land Rover were all represented in this year's championship with top-notch driver-navigator combinations in action. Both Kutsia and Leek won South African colours in rallying before concentrating on off-road racing and are among the most widely experienced competitors in the country. The Video Sport SVM Range Rover in the hands of Arthur Abram and Stratford Furcht was holding down a position in the top 5. Running in the same stable along with the Video Sport SVM Land Rover driven by Cliff Barker and Mike Redden, the Range Rover has been competitive all season with some encouraging performances from Abraham and Furcht. Despite technological advances where suspension, wheel and tyres are concerned, off-road racing vehicles are not the most comfortable vehicles. Apart from the vehicles, driver and navigator also take a hammering. After a quiet start to the Round the Houses in the Bankford Toyota Land Cruiser, Production Vehicle Championship leaders Arpi Reneke and Robin Houghton were into their stride in the time trial. The pair rapidly made up time, but with the championship in their grasp, were not taking any risks. At the end of the first day, Richard Schilling and Ashley Thorne led the special vehicle category ahead of Robbie Walk and Greg Wiebel. Nardis Alberts and Peter Mathieu were third, with the first 10 crews all in racecos. In the production vehicle category, the first skirmishes were won by Nissan Sani pair Neil Woolridge and Paul Vermaak, with Toyota crews second and third ahead of the Abram Furcht Range Rover. Missing from the top 10 were last year's winners Cliff Barker and Mike Redden. A mud puddle on the Round the Houses route provided for a little early fun for the quad racers, who, predictably enough, were being led by Vickers van Deventer on the Pro Group Security Yamaha Banshee. The tape marking the route was an early casualty, with most riders deciding that skirting the fringes of the mud puddle was the best option. It was only a matter of time before someone decided to tackle the mud puddle head-on. The result of this approach was also predictable. While backmarkers prudently followed the example of the leaders and decided discretion was the better part of valor, Adrian Herschel on the Johannesburg Yamaha machine found himself bogged down and losing valuable time. Whatever the state of play, the off-road motorcycle brigade tend to approach the job at hand as though there were no tomorrow. With dust always a problem for the cars and buckies, there's a definite advantage in being at the front of the field at the start of each day. Apart from a psychological advantage, starting at the front of the field is not a critical factor where the bikers are concerned, but their approach is often to go as fast as possible for as long as possible. There was never any doubt that the likes of six-time winner Alfie Cox and Free Stater Graham McLaughlin would set the pace, but there were to be one or two surprises in the top 10 at the end of the day. With 6 victories under his belt, Cox was going for a hat-trick of wins on the roof. An Italian has twice previously been on the brink of a hat-trick of wins, only to be thwarted first by Jeremy Davies and then by the late Patrick Andrews, who became the first Lesotho rider to win the event. Free Stater Graham McLaughlin looked to be a man on a mission on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda. Although still without an overall win going into the roof, McLaughlin has performed consistently in his first full season in the 250 class. McLaughlin was setting a cracking pace, but most people had their eyes on Alfie Cox, who this time around was mounted on a Pro Action Castrol KTM running in the 500 class. With the route for the time trial flat and very quick for the most part, a couple of riders got caught out with overshoots with some expressive language when it happened. There were no such problems for another of the fancied riders, Errol Dalton, on bike 545, the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda, who by his standards was going along very sedately. Kevin Fisher's approach on the Pro Honda 250 was a little more spectacular than Dalton, up ahead of him, and he was one of the riders who lost a few seconds with a slight deviation from the route. Andy Norris-Jones on the Jeffers Racing Kawasaki looked to be in good form and was setting the pace in the 200 class. Although virtually out of the running in the overall stakes because of lack of power, competition in the smallest capacity category in off-road racing is fierce. Chasing after Norris on the Antilex Dairy Kawasaki was 200 class championship leader Alex Vowles, who went into the roof with a slender 3-point lead over Henny Human in the 200 category. As is so often the case, the 200 class runners were closely bunched, and not far behind Norris-Jones and Vowles was Clayton Enslin on the PD Motorcycles Kawasaki. Behind Enslin, a good scrap had developed between Henny Human on the Lesotho Office Equipment Honda and Dino Paoloni on a Kawasaki, who were being egged on by enthusiastic local children. When the dust had settled, Vickers van Deventer was just over a minute ahead of Team Yamaha's Derek Johnson in the quad racer category. The pair led Yuri Duplessis, Paul Martin and Rod McPherson with all the top 10 Yamaha mounted. Alfie Cox on the KTM led the motorcycle brigade by nearly 2 minutes. He was followed by Graham McLaughlin on the first of the 250s and Gray Dick. Andy Norris-Jones and Alex Vowles completed the top 10 and led the 200 class.